incredible, powerful, moving testimonies. It is my hope that every man and woman in Iowa and that every man and woman across this country listen to those stories. Listen to those stories, understand these threats are not imagined, they're not made up. These are real people leading real lives who found themselves facing persecution simply for living out their faith. There is a war on faith in America today. In our lifetime, did we ever imagine that in the land of the free and the home of the brave, we would be witnessing our government persecute its citizens for their faith? We are blessed today to be in the presence of heroes who serve as an example to all of us of what it means to sacrifice for the kingdom. Heroes who have suffered for living out their faith and their personal convictions. Their stories are real and they're personal. Right here in Iowa, Dick and Betty Odegaard, forced to close down their wedding chapel because of their beliefs in the scriptural teachings of marriage. And in Washington, Barronelle Stutzman faced the same consequence for her courage after she and her flower shop had been sued. Aaron and Melissa Klein, their bakery in Oregon, and Blade Adamson's t-shirt business in Kentucky. Atlanta Fire Chief Kelvin Cochran, what a vision for God. And Senior Master Sergeant Philip Monk, who both after lifetimes of service were forced to depart their stations because of their faith. As Aaron Klein has said so powerfully, my fight in this situation is religious freedom. It is the ability to live and work by the dictates of my faith without being punished by the government, and all Americans should be free to do that. Think of the stories on this stage. These are people for whom right and truth will always mean more than going along to get along or looking the other way when right is replaced with what is wrong. These heroes have boldly resisted the state encroaching on their First Amendment rights. They have fought back against the Washington elite's war on faith. As have other heroes across the country, like the Little Sisters of the Poor, who have stood for faith, although the federal government is litigating against this Catholic charity to force nuns to pay for abortion-inducing drugs and others. Is it any surprise that the federal government we have today would use Obamacare to assault people of faith and to try to deprive them of their constitutional rights? We should ask ourselves, don't we need to know the full truth behind the administration's decision to come up with statutes and regulations discriminating against and persecuting people of faith? Don't we have a right to know about what government officials were involved in that process, what emails were sent, what outside groups were involved in making the decision that the federal government is now an enemy of the religious liberty rights of our citizens? We are seeing today an unprecedented assault on freedom, on faith, and especially on life and marriage. I don't have to remind anyone here of the atrocities committed each and every day by Planned Parenthood. These videos that have been made public make vivid what we already knew. that those who support them have demonstrated an utter disregard for human life. Innocent life should not be up for debate. An innocent life should not be treated as a business transaction. Selling the body parts of unborn children is a federal crime that carries with it 10 years in prison. And if I am elected president, I will instruct the U.S. Department of Justice to open an investigation into Planned Parenthood and prosecute. Life is a precious gift from God. As Thomas Jefferson proclaimed, the God who gave us life gave us liberty. Once the government can take away the right to life, it can take away anything, even marriage. Just a few months ago, I appreciate your expressing your First Amendment rights. Just a few months ago, we lived through the most tragic Supreme Court decision since Roe v. Wade. 5 black road lawyers attempted to redefine marriage for all 50 states. Justice Scalia wrote his dissent. The Supreme Court of the United States has descended from the disciplined legal reasoning of John Marshall and Joseph Story to the mystical aphorisms of the fortune cookie. The fortune cookie rules and the moral truths that have been evident to every civilization in recorded history had become declared obsolete. During the oral argument, we witnessed a frightening, although clarifying, exchange. Justice Samuel Alito asked the United States Solicitor General whether a university's tax-exempt status could be revoked, quote, if it opposed same-sex marriage. The Solicitor General's response was not reassuring. Quote, I don't deny that, Justice Alito. It is going to be an issue. The tax-exempt status of Christian universities, of Christian grade schools, of Christian charities, and even of the church itself is, quote, going to be an issue because a federal ruling that denies the definition of marriage as the union of one man and one woman could easily be used as a pretext to prosecute and persecute anyone who believes in the scriptural teaching and biblical understanding of marriage. You listen to these incredible, brave stories up here and you wonder, is the next victim of persecution your pastor standing at the pulpit on Sunday morning? Is it the grade school that your little girls go to? Is it the charity where you volunteer your time at a crisis pregnancy center? We have descended from an attack on life to marriage, and now from marriage to religious liberty. Because it's not enough for these advocates to tear down marriage. Now the Washington elites want to silence those who believe in the biblical definition of marriage. Their goal is to keep people of faith from being able to live by the dictates of their conscience and to freely express their beliefs. The tactic we have heard over and over again is to bully people of faith into silence. How many of these heroes told stories of people saying, I'm with you, but only in secret, because I cannot stand the condemnation that comes if I stand with you in the light of day. Religious freedom is and always has been central to the American experience. It cuts across class lines, racial lines, ethnic lines, party lines. It unifies us. It is who we are as an American people. I'm reminded of a line from the movie The Usual Suspects. The greatest trick the devil ever played was to convince the world he didn't exist. I will suggest a corollary. The greatest trick the left has ever played is to convince conservatives that Americans don't share our values. America is and remains a center-right country. We are and remain a country built on Judeo-Christian values. That is who the American people are. We here today must renew our resolve to protect our God-given rights from all of those eager to try to take them away. We gather today here in the heartland of America to take a stand against religious bigotry and intolerance, and for those brave heroes who have lost their livelihoods and their positions of honor by standing for faith. This rally is a chance to stand for freedom and for the idea that rights don't come from black-robed lawyers or from politicians in Washington. They come from God. understanding, it is this revelation that has made America an exceptional nation, and indeed the exceptional nation in the history of the world. Now is the time for each of us to ask for the courage of Daniel and Esther and Jeremiah. This is about freedom-loving people of faith versus those who want to silence our faith and take away our freedom. History shows us that in order to gain control of the people, you must first destroy their moral fiber, destroy their faith. But what scares the extremists the most is that there are more of us than there are of them. You have heard tonight of two tremendous groups, the Liberty Institute and the Alliance Defending Freedom. Two groups I have been proud to volunteer to work with, to support for many, many decades. And let me tell you, these groups, if you are finding yourself persecuted for your faith, these groups exist to defend our First Amendment rights, our religious liberty. They have lawyers on call that will come often and represent you for free because they believe and understand if we lose our religious liberty, we lose every freedom in America. Many of you know my father, Raphael, is a pastor. He saw freedom taken away in Cuba, and it breaks his heart to see the same thing happening in America. My father travels around the country. He's 76 years old, and he's on the road 7 days a week with the energy of a teenager. And he delivers a tough message, especially to fellow pastors. And that he stands and addresses pastors and tells them, if you look at the plight of the nation, no one bears more responsibility than the pastors. If the flock stumbles in a ditch, you don't blame the sheep. You blame the shepherd. In this country right now, there are roughly 90 million evangelical Christians. In the last election, 54 million evangelicals stayed home. 54 million. You wonder why we have a federal government that comes after our free speech rights, that comes after our religious liberty, that comes after life, that comes after marriage, that comes after our values. It is because 54 million evangelical Christians stayed home. Well, I'm here to tell you, we will stay home no longer. I'd like to ask every pastor who is here with us today to please stand. Thank you for your leaderships. Thank you for standing for faith. Thank you for the impact you're making in your congregation, in your community, standing up together, helping all of us awaken the body of Christ to restore this nation. We are building an alliance of pastors with a pastor and faith leader in each of the 99 counties across the state of Iowa. Together, we will stand up and we will show up. We are a self-governing people, and we will defend our liberty. We will not be shut out because we still hold truths to be self-evident. We will not be silent. We will not take court rulings as a mandate to forget our faith while Washington elites try to force their values upon us. That is why I am so incredibly grateful for the thousands who have come out today, for the home groups and church groups across Iowa and across this country. It gives all of us hope that what has been lost in our nation's capital is alive in the hearts of those who believe. And I give you my solemn word. If I am elected president, on my first day in office, I will instruct the Department of Justice and the IRS and every federal agency in Washington that the persecution of religious liberty ends today. Like the Newsboys song, God's not dead. Which we'll be hearing very soon. Neither is America, and her love of freedom and our people's willingness to defend our freedom. A nation willing to subject itself to the tyranny of man's standard is not worthy to be called a free nation. And to show all of us where this can go, we've seen the persecution here at home. We've seen Sergeant Monk's powerful testimony of our soldiers fighting for us, who said the real battle was being waged here at home. And yet it is worth remembering that it can still get much, much worse. As horrific as the persecution is growing here at home, Christians across the globe are facing torture and murder, are facing imprisonment. And what I'd like to do now is recognize one more hero. One more hero that I've grown to respect and to admire. The wife of Pastor Saeed Abedin, Name Abedin.